Morning, y'all. Let's get to work.
Whew, it's kind of cold outside. All right, it is December 17th, I think. We're gonna head out to the gym, get in some upper body workouts, and we'll come right back to it, and hop right into this video. And we're back. Hey everyone, my name is David. So great to be back with y'all. It's been about a year since I've been, pretty active on social media through YouTube, Instagram, and as you all can tell by the title, things have changed and I've changed a little bit myself. Let's talk a little bit about what exactly happened. So at the time that I kind of took time off from YouTube and Instagram, I was just getting started working 2 jobs simultaneously, working as a COVID-19 lab tech and also getting to work as a scribe in a rural emergency department. And I was getting to see so many cool things, learn from not just physicians but PAs, NPs, and so many amazing other medical staff on board. And I was getting to see the day-to-day of what healthcare can kind of look like in a lot of different kinds of settings. So it was really interesting, really engaging for me, especially as I was trying to build up clinical hours to apply to PA school. So if you don't know, PA school requires about 1,000 direct patient care experience hours. So you'd have to find a job like scribing, being a CNA, or maybe working as an EMT in order to get those hours. Eventually I got to turn my COVID-19 lab tech job into a medical assistant job because you make connections in healthcare, and if people like the work that you do, you can get pretty far with that, and people will want you on their team long term. So I became a medical assistant, still kept my scribe job, of course, just continuing to develop so much experience, learn new procedures, really begin to understand healthcare as it pertains to me personally. I love developing the clinical skills, of course, but the main thing was really engaging with patients, taking care of people, and eventually our clinic, the urgent care clinic that I was a medical assistant at, we were one of the first clinics in the county to actually provide the COVID-19 vaccines, in county being Sacramento County. So it was an awesome experience, and I saw a lot of hope in the sense of vaccinating folks, and of course seeing a lot of healing, being an active participant of that. But just like everything in life, there are the highs and lows, and I'm going to be getting into the lows a little bit. So about the lows, well, going into clinic some days, it could be a little impacted, especially ED2, things could get a little bit crazy. Unfortunately, with the hectic life that the COVID pandemic has kind of brought us all, our healthcare system is heavily impacted, and of course there are repercussions of that. People have to call out, people have personal emergencies that come up that can't be controlled, and that kind of combines with difficult schedules and all that stuff. So the logistics of healthcare can be a little difficult to manage sometimes, and it has huge implications for everyone that shows up on the day-to-day. So of course that was kind of frustrating when I would show up to work and people would call out or might have to take care of other things. It wasn't necessarily a frustration against these folks. I totally understand that they had things come up, but it was definitely a frustration with my own personal circumstances of how am I going to get through this day if we're down a few people. How are we going to get through this when I really was counting on someone to be here? that's not, anything against them. That's just a matter of the situation, and it's tough, and you deal with it. And I just want to talk about our patients. I have a tremendous love for all the patients that walk through the door, an immense sympathy and understanding of, they're going through something right now. We're not seeing them at their best moments, and we just have to be there to help them. But when you see so many patients, when you have to work with so many patients in a 12-hour workday that eventually stretches a little bit into maybe something like 13 hours, 14 hours, you definitely feel the stress and the burden of that, and it leads to suboptimal care sometimes. And by that, I mean not necessarily the procedures or the things that we're doing, more referring to our level of empathy, compassion, how much we can invest into every single one of our patients. Of course, we get strained along the way when things get a little bit stressful. So what happens is that, I definitely saw a little bit of jaded kind of energy inside the clinic, and, I actually saw people quit because things just got a little out of hand. And that was extremely unfortunate, and something that I always kept on thinking about when I was driving back home from clinic. Think about this, right? Like, who sets the tone of a clinic? I mean, out at urgent care and in the ED, I was working a lot with PAs and NPs, and tremendous work that these folks are doing. I have so much respect and for what they do and what they offer to the healthcare system. And of course, I've been pursuing the PA field for a long time. But at the end of the day, I started thinking about, okay, who sets the tone for the clinic? Who's the leadership here? Who controls how our day-to-day looks like? And it's physician leadership and of course administration, all these things combined together that lead to these logistic issues that can either be resolved or continue to persist. So that was something that was on my mind, definitely when I was coming back home from work, driving, commuting, all that stuff. But then, I was working at the ED simultaneously, and, I was coming into the shift, and actually the director of the emergency department at the hospital, he was actually the provider I was going to be shadowing. He was a physician, and he took the time to just chat with me, and that was incredibly meaningful and significant for me because we had a chance to just talk face to face and have a real honest conversation about what my trajectory was. So, thinking about trajectory, he definitely asked me, okay, so what do you want to do? And I said at the time, I want to become a PA. And of course, he asked for some more elaboration. And this is something that I've been thinking about since undergrad. It wasn't something that had just come up willy-nilly, but it had come up from long hours of reflection and thinking about, okay, I'm a first-gen college student, son of immigrants. My family needs me to provide. My family needs me to step up in terms of, providing financial stability. So, going through residency, of course they pay you. So medical school, there's a lot of debt. Residency, you have so many things going into that in terms of, the training, long hours, and not really having, a wage that would allow you to have some meaningful financial independence and being able to take care of others. And that's a long time as opposed to PA school, 2 years of training, getting out, starting to make a six-figure salary, depending on the specialty, of course, but usually you're getting paid very well. And so all those considerations, the financial considerations were important, and also thinking about how residency would have a huge impact on my life and what I had planned for my in terms of starting a family. Those things were definitely things that were weighing on my mind. But the physician asked me one simple question: is this what you want? Is this what you really want? You gave me a lot of reasoning for why you want to go PA, but at the core of it, what makes you get out of bed in the morning to do the hard work? What is it exactly? And at the time I was pretty stumped. I didn't necessarily know what to say to that. It wasn't exactly like he was grilling me for every single detail. It was just one simple question, and I wasn't sure I could answer it at that time. And coming away from that shift, and ever since then, I'd constantly been thinking okay, what is it that I really want? And then also there were other questions what do I want this journey to look like? Why am I so unhappy or maybe even miserable coming out of clinic sometime? And then the final question, honestly, the biggest thing was, how do I dictate what my life is going to look like and how I'm going to be practicing in the future? I think that in reflection, all of the physicians in my life have been leaders in something, either it's in science or through homelessness outreach or through leading a free clinic as a medical director. All these things have shown me that, physician leadership means something. Physician leadership stems from the fact that there's, a privilege that comes with, the training, the mission of, a physician. All these things lead to a voice that carries more clearly through the room for an audience, for any audience. So when I think about that, I think about how I could be in maybe a more stronger or more favorable position where I can change things the way I want them to be, where I can truly dictate the way I want to lead this life. In terms of the question of finances, obviously the training is going to be long. I'm not going to be being paid enough to ensure financial independence necessarily or be able to take care of my family for quite some time, but I will get there. And ultimately, the mission of what I want to do, the mission of, taking on leadership as, a physician one day and being able to lead free clinics or lead homelessness outreach organizations as a physician and being able to step into, local council meetings, local committee meetings, me being in close proximity to Sacramento and, the state capitol has exposed me so much to, how policy can be changed and how, our voices can do so much if only we were to unite and work with others and really just push for, change. So all those things in tandem make me think that, this mission will be worth it. And of course, I can worry about the finances a little bit later down the road. And then when it comes to obviously the long and probably grueling process of going through residency, in reflection, I think it's a matter of a perspective. If you think of residency as this, this arduous journey, and of course it is, but if we don't really respect the fact that the training is there to, help folks feel more confident, have the skills to practice at a high level, to feel like they are the masters of their field. If we can't acknowledge that aspect of training, I think that we're missing a huge part. I think for me, being, the loser that I am, a person that knows my own weaknesses better than anyone else, I think that I really need, to go through that kind of process in order to turn coal into diamond, really, because I need to get there. I want to one day be able to say to myself, look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm a master in this field. When people have questions for me, I'm not gonna, hesitate or necessarily. I'll have a level of confidence that comes from these years of training, and I'll know what I'll be able to do. And of course, I'll be continuing to research my field and push myself harder every day. That just comes with, a lifelong learning. In the end, it's all about what we want for ourselves, what we want this life to look like. Come from, a background of, being the son of immigrants, having come from experiencing homelessness and recovering from that. It's from these feelings of helplessness that make me think about how I can change my narrative, how I can change my story, how I can represent something far greater than what I could have possibly imagined. I think that if I were to become a physician, I'd be able to take on leadership in ways that I've been dreaming about, of being able to innovate in the fields of homelessness advocacy or, healthcare access, healthcare equity by working with free clinics and whatnot. All these things are the opportunities and avenues that are open to me. Are these avenues open to PAs and NPs? Of course they are. There's a lot of organizations that I've worked with that are led by PAs or NPs that do very similar things. But I think it's important to note that, physicians have that privilege, have that elevated voice in certain spaces, and that's something that's going to be continuing for a long time to come. That privilege, the amount of respect that goes towards a physician's voice in a lot of aspects and a lot of different situations. I just want to reiterate that PAs and NPs do great work. The reason why I'm discontinuing my journey of why I'm no longer going to be pursuing PA school is not because of cons or flaws with the PA or NP profession. It's more about what medicine can offer to me. medicine can offer to me, that ability to change my narrative, like I was saying before. My parents crossed, oceans and jungles in order to get to an indifferent land, a land that wasn't necessarily always sympathetic to their plights. I'm coming from, a background of experiencing homelessness and, wanting to change the script, of wanting to show people that if you come from these backgrounds, if you've lived these experiences, your story has only just begun. You can transcend that. You can become something that you never would have possibly dreamed of when you're trying to scrape together a living. The mission of this channel hasn't necessarily changed. I think it's evolved. Over this past year, I've learned so much more about myself, and therefore this channel will change along with me. Ultimately, what this is all about is about me sharing my story, of being able to possibly inspire future generations, of giving some insight of what it's like to come from this kind of background and ultimately change your life for the better. And of course, it goes beyond just, a personal growth or personal journey. This is about how I can bring people along with me. How can I elevate the lives of my loved ones, my family members, my friends, and of course the communities that I get the chance to integrate myself with. So with the changing of this channel, of no longer being Path to PAC, I'm embarking on a completely new journey, and by embarking on this new journey, I have some amazing news to announce. I'm actually going to be attending medical school in this coming year, 2022, and I have so much to share about this process of, quickly doing a career shift, of going from a pre-PA to pre-med and ultimately getting accepted to medical school. So all these things that I have experienced in this past year, all of the hard times that I've experienced, and a lot of the hard conversations I had to have with myself, whether they were in my bed staring at my ceiling or just driving home away from work feeling a little defeated, I have been able to make a change. So ultimately, I thank y'all for checking in with me and supporting me, following me through this entire process. I can't wait to share more about all these aspects of what it takes to go to medical school, to apply to medical school. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, or anyone that is at a crossroads about if they want to go into the healthcare field or isn't sure about which direction they want to go in terms of the healthcare roles, definitely share this video, like, comment, subscribe if you want, and of course I'll be ready to check in with y'all soon. And so I appreciate y'all. Y'all take care, okay? Bye.
Just stick to the plan, it's gonna make you a man. When you're reminiscing in the mirror, don't you remember feeling that